Join us today for a chat with the fashion designer Francis Libiran. Francis,
Hello.
welcome. Thank you for sitting down with us
Thank
today.
you for having me.
Okay, let's talk about fashion design, which is what you have been known for how many decades now. So, fashion design, as they would say, equal parts art, but also equal parts technical execution, and even maybe engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many, like if you had a pie chart, how would you divide, the art of it, the business side of it, and the engineering part of it?
So let's start with my background being as an architect. So I took up architecture, I finished architecture. So in architecture, we were trained to solve problems through designing. So I guess I applied it to what I'm doing right now as a designer. A lot of my clients go to me with a lot of insecurities in their bodies. So it's me as a designer, I try to problem solve a lot of things for them, and that's where the creativity starts to happen. And another part of what I'm doing also is the most important thing, the business side of it. For me, it's like 50-50 being creative and another 50 being, knowing the numbers of what you're doing. But I have a very good friend who's also my business partner, who's RC Baltazar is his name. So he's the one doing the numbers for that one, and I'm the creative side of things. So it's a good combination.
Okay, so it frees you up from having to worry about day-to-day and administrative duties or administrative issues or
And
problems.
Disciplining the employees.
So has this always been how you worked? You've always had a business manager. So it frees you up for more creative pursuits.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in collaboration. If you do something, if your weakness is numbers, you need to get a person who can do it for you. I believe in a very good partnership in whatever I do.
Okay. And so going back to what you said, that you were an architect, actually, a quick Google search will yield the fact that you did go to UST, take up architecture, and you even took the boards.
Yes.
So you are actually architect Francis Libiran. Have you designed anything?
I worked for 2 years in an architectural firm. So being working, your starting point there is a draftsman. So I worked for 2 years in Makati. You know what? At one point, I got really bored, and I said, "This is not for me."
Because you weren't designing. You were essentially
Yeah.
drafting your boss's orders.
I'm just like erasing the line or doing a rearranging of something, but there's no creativity to it. So doing it for 2 years is like torture for me.
So at which point did fashion enter the photo or the picture?
I've always wanted to be a fashion designer ever since
Even more than an architect.
Yes, since I was 8 years old.
So why not just take fashion design instead of having to go through the 5 years of architecture and then another year for the boards?
Because my dad doesn't want me to be a designer. He wants me to be a physical therapist that time. But being an architect was, I told him that, okay, I want to take up something related to designing. And he said, architecture. And he said, okay, that's good enough for me.
Okay, so was that hard? Kasi, dito sa Pilipinas, di ba, filial piety, obeying your parents. That's really big for us Filipinos.
Yes.
Kahit ako naman eh. Diba? Also, not allowed, kailangan yung course, Bachelor of Science, ganyan.
Of course, may ano with my dad was, sabi ko sa kanya, don't worry, I'll finish that on time. The whole 5 years, I'll finish on time. But after graduating, I want to go on my own.
And then how did you
That
tell
was my
him na,
compromise.
in your 2 years working as a draftsman in Makati, how did you break the news to your dad na, Dad, sorry,
I want to be a designer.
Yeah.
You know what? One day, I was just so bored at work. And I sabi ko, this is not for me. Alam mo yung punong-puno ka na talaga that you need to release your creativity. Talagang nag-draft lang ako ng resignation letter and I sent it to my boss. Hindi na ako nagpaalam sa dad ko.
Pinaalam mo na lang after.
Oo, pinaalam ko na lang. Tapos, ang ginawa ko, nag-enroll na kaagad ako the following day. Literally, the following day, I was a student again for fashion.
Okay, and saan ka nag-aral ng fashion?
Fashion Institute of the Philippines in Ortigas.
Okay.
So
why did you choose na dito mag-aral? A lot of designers kasi, they go abroad pa.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at the convenience. I really want to start as early as possible that time. If I go abroad, syempre may may para bang
A-apply ka pa, yung visa pa.
May visa and everything. And then when I go back, it's the same thing. So might as well mabilisan na. Basta ang goal ko lang that time was to really design as soon as possible because it's inside me, it's really burning and it's parang gusto niyang kumawala.
Kating-kati ka na.
Kating-kati na talaga ako to do it.
And your mom naman, I read in one of your previous interviews na your mom was a big inspiration to you kasi maporma siyang tao.
Yes.
She's fashionable and stylish, always put together.
So my mom would always bring me to her costurera when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And she would tell me, anak, ano mas maganda? Itong stripes o itong polka dots? Yung polka dots, syempre. So, doon pa lang namulat na yung eyes ko na my mom was para bang trusting my vision in terms of fashion. So, malaking influence yung mommy ko on that one.
Okay. And then once you moved to fashion, I'm guessing tuloy-tuloy ka na doon kasi yun talaga yung passion mo. That's where your heart was, right? But was there ever a time when you were already in fashion that you had one of your architect moments and you were like punong-puno na or frustrated? Did you have that same experience ever?
You know what? Siguro nagamit ko yung pagiging arkitekto ko when I was doing my own space, when I'm doing the production space. So parang nagamit ko pa rin naman siya when I was being a designer. Actually, malaking influence ang pagiging arkitekto to what I'm doing right now.
Okay. Like you said kanina, no, a lot of your clients come to you. Siyempre, hindi yung mga supermodel that we see, but probably yung normal person na papagawa ng gown, let's say kasal ng anak niya. Let's say, ano ba yung usual concern ng Filipina in terms of body image? Malaki tiyan, diba?
Braso,
malaki arms.
Yes. Papayatin mo.
Oo, papayatin mo.
So,
how would you do that?
So,
talk us through your process.
So sometimes when a client goes to me, naalala ko before may mga dala yung mga pegs.
Yeah.
Minsan pa nga magazines. So, sasabihin niya sa akin, Francis, can you ito yung ginawa mo kay Ann Curtis. Gusto ko maging kagaya ni Ann Curtis. Can you make that happen? Siyempre, you're being honest and you would tell them na, alam mo, mas maganda ang collarbone mo kaysa kay Ann. Let's concentrate on that one. So it's really looking at what they have rather than yung expectations nila. Alam mo na, managing their expectations is very important to what I'm doing.
Yeah. So parang Francis Libiran, the diplomat.
The diplomat.
Yeah, the diplomat. No, it's hard to tell someone hindi mo alam saan nanggagaling kliyente, di ba?
Yeah.
Kung baka naman
it's a
sensitive siya.
Very sensitive issue that you just have to be very positive in all your response to them.
Did that come naturally to you? Or did you have to learn through
Yes.
experience?
I mean, I call it performance when I'm talking to a client. You need to prep yourself mentally and physically that you're talking in a certain way that they would feel good about what I'm designing. Because I'm selling a sketch at first, diba? So it's up to you to explain to them what are the para bang innovations in that design that will make them feel good.
Okay, speaking of innovations, I remember this was probably mga 2008, 2010, and you were famous for, speaking also of Ann Curtis, making her a laser cut dress, and this somehow ended on America's Next Top Model, the show of Tyra Banks. And then you ended up dressing Tyra Banks.
Yes.
How did you get that break? And how helpful was that America's Next Top Model experience for your career overall?
You know what, that time I got an email from ANTM saying that we want to collaborate with you. Hello Kitty was the favorite character of Tyra Banks, so we want you to work on Hello Kitty items. So I designed a gown na Hello Kitty. But nag-reply back sila, sabi, Tyra saw the designs, it's all nice, but Tyra wants it more challenging. We'll be sending stuffed toys, lunch boxes, toothbrushes, and you need to make it a couture piece. So sabi ko, wow, it's an extra challenge, but I'm up for it.
Yeah.
You know, so I was working on it, like talagang nagpupuyat ako. How can I do a lunch box and make it into a couture gown? But it came out really, really nice, very iconic. You know, nagustuhan niya.
How much of architect Francis had to do with that gown?
Doon na pumasok ang architecture because we need to support the lunch boxes on a gown.
So that's important. And I don't think you learned that from fashion school. That came from architecture school. Or
you know what? It's
mix of both.
It's a mix of both because in architecture you'll be working with steel and heavy materials. In fashion it's all about lightweight. But the concept, the methodology of it, like the post, ganun din eh. To support everything that you put on the gown.
So fast forward to that iconic moment, to this iconic moment this time around, dito naman sa Pilipinas, purely
Mhm.
Filipino, you were commissioned by the Philippine Olympic Committee to dress our athletes
Yes.
to the Paris 2024 opening ceremonies. Of course, everyone saw, the coverage on the media, how the outfits looked on
Mhm.
models, and then eventually we saw them on the athletes. Talk us through how you got that gig. Did they just randomly call you? Did you have to, kumbaga, pitch to
Yeah.
get that gig?
So, um, we've been doing their parade barongs since SEA Games pa. So
Okay.
that's the opening. We've done a lot. I think 3 SEA Games barong already
Okay.
for the sports commission. And then when they got a call from them about dressing up our Olympians,
Mhm.
our athletes for that, I was just wishing for that. Siyempre after SEA Games, ang next mo is Olympics
Oo.
na eh.
Para ka na ring athlete.
Oo,
After
so
SEA
sabi,
Games, Asian Games,
yeah,
Olympics.
nandun na sa
Oo.
level na yun. So, I was just wishing na para bang, sana ako yung makuha, sana ako makuha. Then one Saturday, I got a call from them asking me, Francis, can you design something for our athletes? Alam mo, sa sobrang prepared ko, that afternoon, I was able to come out with 5 designs for them to choose from.
So do you mean hindi mo pa sure na nakuha mo? It was already percolating in your head?
I have a design in mind already.
Okay,
even
so
if they
parang you just had to
don't-
draw it.
I just have to draw it, and one day if they call, I'm prepared already for that one.
Okay, so,
Parang, I know, you're manifesting it
yeah.
already.
So you had 5 designs, you said.
Yes.
Which one made it, and what happened to the other 4?
The other 4, it's I remember there's the Filipinas or the Philippine text, and then there's the Agila Barong.
The baybayin.
The baybayin and everything. Pero this one talaga yung nagustuhan nila, the Sinag Barong.
Mhm.
And it's because I think the colors of our flag was so vibrant in that barong. And the thing is, it's also detachable. It becomes an ordinary barong without that armor on top of it.
Yes, form and function yung barong na yon. A lot of people were saying, and of course I read also in your own words, mga interviews mo nung dinebut yung barong, no? Na Francis Libiran nga ang gumawa. Ganyan. The Pintados Warriors.
Yes.
The Rays of the Sun, yun yung focus mo for this barong.
Yeah.
Bakit yung Pintados Warriors? Saan nanggaling yun?
Pintados kasi, if you research the meaning of it, it's warrior eh. It's a badge of honor pag tinatattoo yung Pintados on their bodies. So pag may ganon, parang bang warrior ka. Yun yung dating parate. So it's that meaning stuck in my head, and I wanted to put it into the rays of the sun. And if you've noticed, it's placed near the heart of our athletes. So the concept of that one is like they're going to a fight, putting on their armor, and being Filipino in that Olympic stage.
Okay, so that's what's it. And then, so how long? So like you said, you got the call na ikaw nga yung napili. That afternoon, you submitted the design. When did they get back to you?
The next day,
Ito na.
sabi
si
niya, Francis,
Sinag.
ito nang si Sinag ang gagawin natin. And then, sabi ko sa kanila, give me a week, I'll do the prototype already. So, nung pinakita ko yung prototype sa kanila, they were so amazed. Sabi nila, ayan na, okay na yan. So, ang pinaka-challenging part was getting the measurements of the athletes. Talagang nag-aabang kami to get their schedule para masukatan sila.
So, paano nyo nagawa yun? Gano'ng kahirap yun?
Gano'ng kahirap, we always, nakaabang kami parati sa mga nila, sa gym, sa office. Talagang nag-aabang kami just to get the measurements for them. Because I want them to look really nice on that Olympic stage. When we were conceptualizing it, I remember they said to me, Francis, it's going to be by the River Sen, ang kanilang parada. So sabi ko, naku, wala pala to sa isang stadium. So mas malayo ang vision. So the more that I put the colors of our flag, kasi from afar, I want the Philippine flag to be very noticeable. Kasi if you just wear the barong, it's just a beige barong.
Beige, yeah.
So if you see it from afar, it would look like an ordinary button-down shirt. And the world doesn't know too much of what the barong is.
Okay, so alam mo naman pala in advance na fluvial yung parade. It's
Yes.
on the water.
Oo.
And considerations were made.
Yeah.
And exactly, like in your career, it spans decades now.
25 years.
25
now.
years. And the 25 years, you're known for innovating, like we have said. How do you stay relevant in the fashion industry? As we know, it can be quite fickle. Uso ka today, bukas laos ka na.
Nako,
Diba?
napakabilis. That's why you need to be aware on a daily basis of what you're doing. You need to be aware of the business side of it and what's happening, because every day there's a new designer coming up with a new idea. You need to stay relevant. You need to be guarded with a lot of things. And part of it is me going out from my comfort zone all the time. Just looking from the outside. I always observe what I'm doing and how the business goes, and observing the landscape of fashion here in the Philippines. And it's nice to go outside the country, for a vacation, just to have that unbuttoned flag, for you to reset things in your head.
How important is that? Like in the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about fashion as an art form, and it has been for centuries now.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's hard to stay relevant, right? And it's so hard because you're also an artist. You need to be inspired to have your best work. If you're not inspired, it really shows in the quality of your work. How do you consciously do that? It sounds like you're a very disciplined person and you're conscious about these things.
Yes.
So what's your process like?
It's very important for me to have my rest. So that sometimes I would book a flight, go to Boracay alone, spend 3 days. I have a routine already. Jog in the morning from station 1 to station 3, and then I would stop there and meditate for an hour. That 3 days is very special to me because it helps me recharge. Helps me focus on the future of my business, fashion and designing. That's why I call that trip very sacred.
It's your me time.
It's my me time. Bawal lang disturbo, bawal lang ano. After 3 days, tsaka nyo ako disturbo. Pero that's very important for me. Even if I create a collection for a very important fashion show, I would sometimes book myself in a hotel, lock myself there for overnight without touching the bed. And it's just me in that room with my creativity just flowing and flowing. And by the end of that check-in at the hotel, you could see papers around.
Ano kayang iniisip ng housekeeping?
Oh, yeah.
Sino bang nag-book nitong room? But you also said you stay guarded.
Yeah.
Right? How important is staying guarded in the fashion industry? As we know, I think it's pretty obvious naman around, and if you just check media, if you check yung mga chismis sites, gossip sites, kasama dyan talaga ang fashion. Diba?
It's nice to have a core group. I have a few friends who I trust so much. Their opinion matters. And it's nice to talk to them on a daily basis with what's happening. You cannot be influenced by the people around you, because fashion industry is a very fierce, very maanong world yan eh.
Yeah.
You don't know who your friends are.
Yeah.
But what I did was, I tried to be friends with everyone, but to a certain level.
Hindi masyadong 100% bigay na bigay in the beginning.
Yeah. Mas maigi na para bang you have your core group that you can trust, and you know that you have their support every time there's something going on.
Dito sa core group mo, how important is family to you? Do you still consult your mom? Since she obviously has an eye for fashion, do you still do that? Mom, okay ba to?
So my family lives in the States for almost 30 years now. All of them. I'm the only one here in the Philippines. So it was hard for me because I'm a very family-oriented guy. I get my strength from my parents. So every day I call up my mom and dad at a certain time. On my way to work, I would give them a call and just ask ko, anong ulam nyo? What's happening? And I know also pag magagalit sila. Alam mo yan, but
so you're in the loop with the family
yes,
drama?
all the time. So, silang nagbibigay sa akin ng strength. Family is very important for me. Their opinion matters. If pag napanood ako ng mommy ko na sa TV, bakit ganyan ang suot mo? So talagang ako naman, I get so affected by it right away. My dad naman, at tanungin niya, kamusta ang negosyo? Kamusta ang business? So, ang ganda ng balance nila na towards me, because I have both. I have the creative mom and I have my dad who's a businessman. Diba? Para bang I feel so lucky to have that.
Parang may isa kang consultant for your artistic side and another one for your business side. Fashion now is, meron pa bang such a thing as Filipino fashion beyond barong, terno, and yung mga tribal ng mga
Yeah.
weaves that we see na kumakalat ngayon.
Mm.
Of course, that's a traditionally
Yeah,
Filipino.
it's given.
But when you say modern Filipino fashion,
Mhm.
ano yun?
Modern Filipino fashion, it's not just the clothes itself. It's more of the way we do things, the lifestyle, the people. If you've noticed, the lifestyle right now of Filipinos are so different from 20 years ago. And we as a fashion designer, we need to adapt to it. It's not, and barongs can be used by a very hip teenager right now. If you've noticed, there's a lot of designs that we see around innovating the barong Tagalog. It's not anymore the sampaguita or the floral embroidery. You could see whales of the Philippines, the baybayin alphabets sewn into or embroidered onto the barong. Barong has evolved so much to a point wherein you could be young and hip wearing a barong. So that comes with a certain lifestyle and mindset of the Filipino.
Do you think younger Filipinos now
Mhm.
put more stock or value on yun nga, mga traditional Filipino wear? Kasi may time na hindi gusto ng mga tao branded, imported.
Yeah.
Pero ngayon parang bumabalik siya eh.
Mhm.
Am I imagining it or
No,
totoo
it's
ba?
true because we see a lot of younger Filipinos right now. They want to have identity. When they go outside the world, ang Pilipino mahilig mag-travel ngayon.
Totoo.
Diba? So when they travel, they want that piece of identity with them. Being a Filipino. That's why the fashion industry right now is very interesting because the younger designers are more into the retail part of fashion rather than the couture side of fashion.
Right.
So business-minded na rin sila kung titingnan mo, which is the right way to go.
Do you think yun yung nagkukulang sa fashion industry, the pagka-business side of it? Because I'm looking at your operations. You have your atelier,
Yeah.
right? For mga couture, for
Mhm.
weddings, I'm guessing, and big life events. But you also have a retail component to your business. I believe, have 2 stores now
Yeah.
in malls,
Yeah.
right? And we know Filipinos love malls. It's a center of our lives and our
Yes.
weekends. Talk us through that decision to jump into retail. Kasi mabigat yun,
Yeah.
diba?
It's also hard to shift your creative mind on how you could design for the general public. You're so used to talking to one client to solve her problem. Here you're talking about people in general. So it's challenging. If you're a creative person, you're up for that challenge. And if you find something that will solve the problem for the retail part, it's a win-win situation. And part of our business also is we do corporate uniforms. So we do for big hotels here in the Philippines. So anything related to fashion, talagang pinasukan namin ng business partner ko.
Yung uniforms nga eh. It's
Yeah.
how big is the corporate uniforms in terms of like the slice of your business pie? Does that keep you busy?
Yes,
Yes.
it's because of the quantity. So just imagine if a hotel has 5,000 staff times 3. You need to
Pampalit
create
nila.
pampalit
Yeah.
nila. So each department, they have their certain look also. Challenging for creativity and design because how can you distinguish one position to another and make it cohesive when they're on the floor?
Okay. I never thought of it from that angle. But if I were to ask you, Francis, ano yung wish list mo for the Philippine fashion industry? What would be on top of that list?
I wish for our fashion industry to evolve, to evolve so that we are known for our creativity. I want Filipino designers to be known around the world because I believe in our talents. We're very good with our designing skills. We're just limited with resources of what we have here. But imagine, despite that, we're still emerging as a best designing country, But the education part is very important too. We need to educate our newcomer, the fashion designer, the business side of what we're doing. I guess that's the most important part. I wish for that the government would send the younger designers to abroad and to study that part of the fashion industry because fashion is a big here in our culture. If the government sends young designers to study abroad, the full course, and let them go back here to practice what they've learned, I guess there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, I think we're good for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Francis Libiran.